Welcome everybody to the New Fly Fisher. I'm your host, Colin McEwen. In today's show, we're fishing for steelhead. We're here in western Michigan on the big Manistee River. We're going to be fishing with Bob Linzeman, author of Great Lakes Steelhead, a guided tour for fly fishers, as well as Ray Schmidt. I better step forward here a little bit. We're going to be talking about tackle, techniques, and some of the great steelhead opportunities that exist throughout the Great Lakes region. It's going to be a super show. Stay with us. The New Fly Fisher is sponsored by Bank of Montreal Atlantic Salmon Federation MasterCard, Ducks Unlimited, Canada's conservation company. In today's show, we're fishing on the Manistee River on the western side of Michigan. This area is readily accessible by many anglers from major metropolitan areas such as Chicago, Detroit, and Toronto. This is a beautiful water system which has a prolific steelhead run. Respected author Bob Linzeman and outfitter Ray Schmidt have generously offered to take me steelheading and discuss the tactics required to catch them.
We think that these winter run steelhead, which is what we're fishing for today, it's the middle of November here. We got a kind of a cold, cloudy, gray day, and we think these winter fish come in. Nobody really knows for sure, of course, but the genetics of this fish that we brought from the Pacific Northwest about 100 years ago or so, some of these fish came in the rivers in the winter in order to arrive at spawning grounds at great destinations from the sea. These fish that are here this time of the year, our average sized fish is 8 to 9 pounds. We occasionally get a fish over 10 and a rare fish above that. Kind of in age classes. 7 to 9 pound fish is a 2-year lake fish or a 4-year-old fish from gravel, and fish over 10 pounds is typically a 3-year lake fish or a 5-year-old fish, and a bigger fish is generally a 6-year-old fish. These fish are bright silver from the lake. They're not here spawning. They're quite aggressive, very active as far as the fight is concerned. Sometimes we'll get 6 or 8 jumps, 4 or 5 feet in the air, into the backing 2 or 3 times before the fish finally succumbs to your hand. So it's a very aggressive fish, and it's a great sport. We are restoring some of these riverbeds, if you will, from historic lumbering days where this whole area was scalped for the white pine, kind of to rebuild Chicago, and about the time that 1900 is when America was really growing strong. So they scalped this area of the native white pine trees. Severe erosion, lots of sand came to the riverbeds. So we've been on about a 20-year battle to curb erosion, to help habitat for not only wild steelhead and salmon, but for native trout. So we feel very strongly about that. Our tributaries here on the Manistee are our mainstay of fish production here on the Manistee. It is supplemented by a hatchery, but the predominant number of fish here are wild fish. And without that ongoing conservation effort and restoration to natal spawning water, this just couldn't be possible. So we feel very strongly about that, and we urge support from the public for these kinds of programs. For more information about some of these causes and the organizations that are involved in them, you can go to Colin's website at www.thenewflyfisher.com.
There are many variables that will influence when steelhead will proceed uprivers from the lakes. Factors include water and air temperatures, water height and flow, and the presence of other species such as salmon. By reading books about these influences combined with research on the internet, anglers can better determine peak periods to fish for steelhead. We'll be right back with more fly fishing after this short break.
This time of the year when the water temperatures are cold, and we use this technique called drift fishing. 9.5 to 10 foot graphite rods, 7 to 9 weight for power, small fighting butt like you see here, a large arbor reel for quick pickup and large capacity, because we are talking about Great Lakes steelhead, and they're very active this time of the year, strong fish. So we're use these things to our advantage. The setup that we use is a 30 thousandths diameter floating shooting line with a butt section of about 15-pound test that's 10 to 12 feet in length to keep the shooting line away from the fish so that it's not visible to the fish. And then at that point, at the end of the 15-pound butt section, we then go to our weight system. There's several different systems used. We find this one to be the best here on the Manistee. This is a pencil lead with a snap swivel arrangement. You can see in my left hand here is the 15-pound test butt section coming into the top of the swivel, with the snap swivel being attached to the drop pencil lead. And then from there we put our tippet material on, which is typically 6 to 8 pound test. We fish here a dropper fly system from the lead itself to the first fly, which is typically a glow bug, is about 36 inches. A short tag that we leave, drop that glow bug off from, and then another 18 to 24 inches, depending on water clarity, drop down to an aquatic nymph of some sort. This happens to be a pattern we call a Great Lake shrimp. We use caddis larvae and stoneflies and various other aquatic nymphs that these fish are accustomed to seeing. So that's our basic rig. Go just up and across a little bit in the cast to the seam, because the steelhead like the seam. And this time of the year, strike is pretty aggressive. Our water temperatures are in the mid-40s right now. Pretty warm for this time of the year. As the temperature drops, the strikes become very subtle, sometimes almost undistinguishable. So we're fishing, this bottom is a sand bottom. The Manistee is a glacial outwash, glacial tailings, this whole region of Michigan. We're in a glacial moraine here, or a glacial tailing, and a big reef that went across the state called the Niagaran Reef. And when the glaciers moved across here, left these rivers of gravel and sand, very high water quality, clear and cold, good trout fishing, good steelhead habitat, good salmon habitat. So anyway, this lead is sliding along the bottom, along the sand, and when a fish grabs it, of course, you can feel it pretty well.
A steelhead and rainbow trout are almost one and the same species. The difference genetically is slight, but they differ greatly in behavior and size. Their colorings, markings, and profile are strikingly similar. However, steelhead are usually 5 to 10 times the size of an average rainbow trout. Many refer to steelhead as rainbows on steroids. The steelhead we are angling for on the Manistee are generally here looking to feed on eggs from spawning Chinook and coho salmon, as well as eggs from brown trout. As opportunistic feeders, they will also forage for nymphs, crayfish, and any bait fish while in the river. There are numerous strains of steelhead throughout the Great Lakes that have evolved over the years. Michigan's steelhead program dates back to 1876, when both hatchery and wild fish were planted into the Ausable River and other locations throughout the state. In 1966, an aggressive hatchery program was begun, and strains of steelhead from the Little Manistee, and Platte Rivers were harvested for steelhead eggs. Since then, millions of hatchery fish have been put into the system with excellent results. Like Atlantic salmon, steelhead are strong fighters, and in this case, my fish found an old tree stump to wrap my leader around. All I ended up with was some tree bark. Oh well, that's fishing.
We put our heads together one time and said, you know, there really isn't anything that's specifically tailored to the Great Lakes fishery. This is a clear need in the angling literature, the way that we saw it. So we talked over a strategy, you know, what should be in it? What do we want to do here? We want to take someone who's new to the sport and give him or her, a base of knowledge that will allow them to go out, you know, in terms of tackle, technique, strategy, geography, and have a reasonable expectation of being able to catch a steelhead on a fly. All of the fishery around the Great Lakes is different by region. So we thought, what better way to point this out to a beginning angler than to go and to fish with the experts in each region. We came over and we fished with Ray Schmidt here at Schmidt Outfitters. We fished with John Clusie on the Pere Marquette. We went up to Canada and we fished with Eric DiCarlo out of Sault Ste. Marie, then of Wawa, and we fished the beautiful Michipicoten River up there. Very different than our rivers down here, Scott Smith and Thunder Bay. And to be candid, we really learned a lot from those guides. That really made our fishing better. So we tried to summarize all of that for each region, for each type of river, so that an angler could reasonably expect if they were going to Thunder Bay, they'd know what to take, they'd know what the conditions would be like, and conversely, if they went to Upper New York State, the Oak Orchard Creek or the Salmon River, if they went to Michigan, which side of the state they went to would make a difference, and so on. So that was our objective. And I think we've been reasonably successful with that book. There are some very subtle differences, Colin, that people need to be aware of in terms of patterns, successful patterns for steelhead based on the region. And let me give you a couple of examples. On the Ausable River, which is my home river, the water is absolutely vodka clear. And like the Manistee here that we've been fishing, it's a big spring creek that is incredibly food rich. But the water is so clear that the flies have to be absolutely lifelike. So we build in more phyloplume, which is a fluttery, soft feather into the Hexagenia lobata nymph, than they need to do over here or on the Pere Marquette. Most fly anglers, steelhead fly anglers, don't realize that as eggs are deposited, whether they're brown trout eggs or steelhead eggs or salmon eggs, that once they're deposited in the gravel, they immediately begin to fade in color. And most of the eggs that I see beginning fly angler, most egg patterns that beginning fly anglers use are the bright fluorescent chartreuse, bright fluorescent orange, and so on. And those are very good under certain conditions, mostly when the eggs are fresh. When the salmon are spawning and the eggs are fresh, when the steelhead are spawning, there's still that bright, gorgeous, almost a succulent orange color. But the truth of the matter is, once those eggs have been in the red, they start to fade, to become almost over time, almost a pearly white. So you have to be sensitive, and this is getting into some of the finer points of steelhead fly angling, but you need to be sensitive as to what stage those eggs are likely to be that are being pushed out of the gravel by the current. And if the, say for example, if the salmon spawn has been over for a while, if they're pretty much done, there'll be very few of those bright orange eggs in the water. Most of them are going to be some shade of paler orange or almost pearlescent white. And as the fish become more sophisticated, more pressured by anglers or by just sensitivity to ultra clear water, they're going to zero in on that imitation that's more, exact to what's flowing and drifting in the current. What kind of snag we got down here?
Just keep that side pressure coming to the left.
Yep. Oh, he's moving. Big fish, big fish. He's way down there. He's down 100
Yeah,
yards.
I saw him down in the flat there. Just keep that pressure left. And
Yeah,
we'll
I'm
keep
trying.
trying to ease him out around the island.
Oh, baby. Smoke, baby, smoke. Go, baby, go. Monica, go,
Yeah.
baby. Come on, Don. Oh, you're close there, buddy.
Yeah. Short now. Trying to shorten him up back and forth across. Oh yeah!
Yeah.
Nicely done. Nice fish. Gorgeous wild fish.
Well done, man. Well done.
You
ready?
Yeah. He's getting there.
He's ready to go.
Just wait for him to swim out of my hand. Which is not that way.
Adios, pal. Go, man. Well done, buddy. That's a great job. Yeah.
When fishing near structure like sunken trees or log jam debris, it is important to fight the fish quickly away from the structure. Otherwise, you will usually lose them. In this instance, I'm using side pressure to try and keep a nice steelhead away from a fallen tree. Unfortunately for this fish, I was unsuccessful. In the Manistee River, the steelhead use several types of structure to hold near. The type and location will vary depending upon water clarity, light conditions, and boat traffic intensity. The three most common types of structure include fallen trees, which provide current breaks, cover, and excellent feeding stations for steelhead. Unfortunately for anglers, they will also cost you a lot of flies and some lost fish. Sunken logs are a type of structure that are usually not discernible to the casual observer. However, by keying in on related shore structure and telltale water currents with visible seams, you will be able to locate the logs and fish. Steelhead like sunken logs because water currents usually dig depressions downstream of this structure, thus providing the fish with an ideal feeding station. Gravel bars and drop-offs. Steep inclines adjacent to pools provide excellent holding areas for steelhead, especially if there is a combination of gravel with the drop-offs. The gravel area provides food such as nymphs and eggs from spawning salmon. The drop-off provides an excellent current break and access to deeper water, which is important to skitterish steelhead.
Larry in there, rowed boat.
If we can do it, it might help.
Steelhead are migratory fish, and like their genetic cousins on the west coast, they cover large areas of water in search of food. Though they usually return to their natal spawning grounds once a year in the spring, they also frequently return to the rivers in search of food.
There we go. Gorgeous wild fish. Big head. Gorgeous wild fish. Bob.
Well done, Bob.
You're the man.
Excellent. A wonderful fish.
Bob and Ray use Sage XP rods in lengths 9.5 and 10 foot long. I used a Hardy Elite 9.5 foot long fly rod in a 7-weight, coupled with a Teton No. 7 reel. For more information about fishing for steelhead in western Michigan, contact Ray Schmidt through his website at www.schmidtoutfitters.com. Well, we've just recovered the boats and we've enjoyed a couple of great days here on the Manistee River fishing for steelhead. I hope you've enjoyed the show. I strongly recommend you look for Great Lakes Steelhead, a fly fishing guide. It'll really help you understand some of the fly fishing opportunities that exist throughout the Great Lakes. This is a type of fly fishing that's kind of different, but it's a lot of fun. I know you'd like it. From all of us here at the New Fly Fisher, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next week.